Help support AMTV by becoming a patron, an AMTV staff member, and following us over on Twitter.
Hi there guys, it's Adam Martyn here, and welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be talking about a programme that I never thought would see the light of day again in like a contemporary modern setting, but alas, it seems like we may well be getting it returning again. We're going to be talking today about Bullseye. Now, before the video gets underway, remember to leave a like on this one and subscribe to the channel as well. We're trying to reach 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year. We got a long way to go, but I believe with your support, we can get there. So, Bullseye. I never thought I'd see Bullseye again in like the mainstream news. It hasn't been in its prime on the air for nearly 30 years now, and it's a show that a lot of people remember fondly. Just a bit of context before we dive into like the main topic today. Bullseye first aired back in 1981. It was made by what was then ATV over on the ITV network before that became Central the year later, and from 1981 to 1995 it had this 14-year run. It was a hugely popular weekend show hosted by the great Jim Bowen, of course, and it was just very simple. Couples came on and played darts, and whoever would basically win the rounds of darts would win money, would win prizes, often not, you know, looking back, maybe not the greatest prizes, but yeah, I'm sure back then it was the peak of what the British public were after. So why am I talking about Bullseye? Well, because I saw on Twitter, and then it got round various newspapers and different outlets, that Paddy McGuinness is tipped to helm a Bullseye reboot. Now, this immediately caught my attention. My experience with Bullseye, obviously, I wasn't around when the original run was on, but I mainly got into Bullseye through all the repeats that aired on Challenge, and you can still find them there. They're still on pretty regularly, either most days or on the weekends or something, but you can catch Bullseye repeats there, and it's a very straightforward show. There's something really, I found something really calming about watching it, so when they said they were going to reboot it, this immediately perked my eyebrows up here, and Paddy McGuinness of all the hosts, but let's get into it. Let's see what it says. ITV executives are reportedly eyeing presenter Paddy McGuinness to host the reboot, stepping into the shoes of the late Jim Bowen, who originally fronted the show. Bullseye first graced television screens in 1981, enjoyed a successful 14-year run, becoming a staple of British television, which it did. I've read different articles about Bullseye and its history where it was attracting well over 10 million viewers, which again, back then in the days of purely analog television, that was a huge achievement to get like more than 10 million viewers, especially to watch a program about people playing darts. The resurgence in interest comes on the heels of 16-year-old Luke Littler's remarkable performance at the PDC World Darts Championship. His final match against Luke Humphreys captivated 4.5 million viewers, marking it as the event's most watched final in history. Again, as we've talked about many a time, TV viewing has changed. 4.5 million now, especially for darts, which, as it says, never tends to garner a massive, massive audience. That's great, you know, great for the sport, and great supposedly for Bullseye. An inside source revealed to The Sun, okay, so take this with a pinch of salt, ITV is already in discussions to bring back Bullseye after this year's final during the event's highest viewership in history. It's early days, but ITV think it could be hugely successful. Plans are even afoot to resurrect the show's iconic speedboat top prize, a nod to the original series' quirks, regardless of the winner's geographical location. And that is, you know, that is a fun little prod at the old show, because some of the star prizes, so you know, you had this board where you had a chance to win 8 prizes, a 9th prize if you got the Bullseye, but then you could gamble all of what you won there for the star prize. Now, sometimes this would be things like a new car or like a new, literally a new living room sofa. I'm not even joking. But I guess the iconic one, the memeable one, is the speedboat, because you think about us here in the UK, there's not that many places where, you know, if you live in a city, you ain't going to be using a speedboat. So the fact that they would just offer this to people, like, and they had no alternative, that is, I always found that pretty funny. The source added they think Paddy, with his Lancashire roots like Jim, would be the perfect person to host. I've not got a problem with Paddy McGuinness at all. I must admit, I've never particularly warmed to like his style of presenting. Again, that's nothing against him as a person. I know he had sort of a rough year last year with a bunch of stuff getting cancelled, but I don't think that was because of him specifically. That was just because of like the shows and what was going on in the TV industry at the time. But I do recognise that he is very popular. He definitely has a panache for presenting, and like it says, with similar roots to Jim Bowen, maybe he could be the right person to host it. I feel you need someone who both can evoke like the comedy as Jim did, even though some of it was very like dad jokey, a bit cringy, but you know, also communicate the excitement of the game as well, because the original Bullseye was as I said, quite a quiet show. I'll get more into that after we finish getting through the bulk of the article. The original Bullseye format featured 3 pairs of contestants, each duo comprising of an amateur darts player and a trivia enthusiast, vying for major prizes such as cars and caravans. The show was renowned for its memorable catchphrases like "You can't beat a bit of bully" and "Stay out of the black and in the red, nothing in this game for 2 in a bed." See, it's all the classic lingo. You just don't see that on telly anymore, do you? Though Bullseye saw a brief revival on Challenge TV in 2006, with comedian Dave Spikey at the helm, it failed to resonate with audiences and was cancelled after 2 series. A one-off special also aired as part of Alan Carr's Epic Game Shows in 2021. And if this does come to fruition, it says it would be the latest to be rebooted game show-wise after Deal or No Deal and Wheel of Fortune. I mean, yes, as you can imagine, there are a lot of game shows at the minute that are being rebooted or being brought out of hiatus. I mean, on the BBC side, The Weakest Link came back a few years ago. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire on ITV, of course, back in 2018. So there's a lot of game shows being rebooted, and I guess a lot of people have nostalgia for these shows. I know when Deal or No Deal did eventually return, a lot of people were quite happy about it. I didn't tune into it myself, but, these game shows have the power to really captivate us as an audience, and I think that goes unnoticed a lot of the time. Like I said, back in Bullseye's heyday, they were attracting more than 10 million viewers to watch this little funny show about people playing darts to win prizes. There's an inherent intrigue in that, and one that clearly captivated people on a lazy Sunday afternoon. And when I say the original show was quiet, throughout the show there's not really any music. There's obviously the theme song and little jingles and cues that play between each rounds and stuff, and in some of the rounds there's like a little underscore, but in a fair amount of this program there is no music whatsoever. And I know for some audiences they might find that a little jarring, but to me that just enhances the calm. In a way, it reminded me of watching snooker as a kid. How obviously when you're watching that there is no music because everyone has to concentrate and be quiet, but that same sense of calm, very easy, straightforward watching with the quirky prizes thrown in, for me at least, is a big part of Bullseye's appeal. And just to touch on the inspiration, Luke Littler, of course, the amazing young man who took the darts world by storm. Only 16 years old. This boy was born in 2007, which hurts me to high heaven. He's a 16-year-old guy who made it to the PDC World Darts Championship final. He didn't win, but I mean, the fact he got there is incredible. And as it said, it captivated the public's imagination. I think everyone loves an underdog story, and the fact that this kid has just always loved darts all his life, and he is so young, just brings it out there in people. You want to watch it. I knew tons of people who had literally zero interest. I'm talking nothing, no interest in darts whatsoever. But yet when all this blew up, they were like, oh, we've got to find out what happens. It was almost like a drama. It was almost like a big TV drama reaching its conclusion. So he's definitely, I think, reinvigorated interest in the sport. I mean, naturally, with Bullseye being the main darts show that isn't the sport itself, the darts game show, I should say, I guess there would always be a lot of speculation as to whether they bring it back. As mentioned, they tried in 2006, or moreover, Challenge did, and it didn't really work out for too long. But if they're saying ITV, this is one of the UK's biggest broadcasters, undoubtedly, the original home of Bullseye, of course, for that 14-year run. I think if they are going to do this, that if they're going to capture that mood, then they need to get this out the door as quickly as possible. I've seen some other sources, though nothing's been majorly confirmed. I've seen some sources say that a pilot for this new version of Bullseye has already been filmed. Some say that it's about to get underway in the wake of this. So I think definitely the first half of 2024, even by the spring if they can. I don't know how long this would take to get together, but the quicker they can get this out the door, the more they can capture the public zeitgeist revolving around darts at the minute. That's not to say Bullseye has no staying power in itself. Of course, this is a brand that is more than 40 years old at this point. You have the key iconography with Bully himself. You've got those catchphrases that I mentioned earlier. I think, if it was rebooted, there would be that initial audience who maybe loved it back in the 80s and 90s and want to come back and see how it's changed. That hopefully would be younger demographics who maybe saw Luke Littler in the darts and want to check out this game show based on darts and stuff like that. I just think timing is such a key thing with this one. Normally I'm like, a show needs all the time it needs to sort of bulk up. But I don't know, the quicker they get this out the door, the sooner they can capture that zeitgeist. I think this really could be a modern day success. I mean, would it run for another 14 years as the original series did? Maybe not. I mean, for a show to get past 5 years this year, game show or otherwise, is exceedingly difficult. The public taste is shifting constantly. The TikTok generations, want new stuff all the time. But I do think it has that potential to capture that cozy feeling it once had. You know, it was a reliable program people could tune into on the weekends, Sundays or Saturdays, whenever it was on, and just relax for half an hour. You can listen to some funny gags from Jim Bowen. You can, you know, have a look at the prizes that were on offer. You can watch them all basically play darts. I do think this show isn't dead in the water. I do think this the event with Luke Littler is exactly what it needed to get the ball rolling. I think if you pitch, you know, let's do Bullseye again. I think if you pitch that to any of the major broadcasters, you know, the BBC, ITV, Channel 4, etc. I think if you pitch that to them in 2024 and this hadn't had happened with Luke Littler, I think they would have said, thank you very much, but we'll see you later. I do think the sheer interest in darts at the minute has propelled this idea that Bullseye can come back. And would I want it to come back? Yeah, why not, you know? As I said, particularly over when I was doing pantomime, in our breaks we'd have the TV in the green room. And on Challenge, it just so happened a lot of the time our breaks were on was when Bullseye was on. So we all just watched it. It was our half an hour to chill and laugh at all the quirks and stuff. So I do think it can work. I don't think they should try and capture the 80s like aesthetic or mood. You know, it shouldn't be forced. Paddy McGuinness should just be Paddy McGuinness. There's going to be a lot of, you know, more modernist stuff in there. I think the quirks and the throwbacks should come in maybe how the rounds are structured or the prizes that are on offer. But yeah, I'd like to see Bullseye back because, as the late great Jim Bowen once said, you can't beat a bit of bully. But let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think Bullseye should come back to ITV1? Would you want to see any major changes? Or do you think that this idea is just a bit daft? Is it just hopping on a recent sporting trend for the sake of it? Do you not think it's got any legs in it anymore? Should it just be left to be repeated on Challenge to the end of time? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But that's all for this video. As I said, leave a like on it. Subscribe to the channel if you're new as well. We'd love to have you aboard. In the meantime, I've been Adam Martyn from AMTV. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you to our patrons for helping to support the show, and a special thank you to Macra, Ben Freeman, Ethan Carberry-Holt, Bruce Danton, Globe of Reviews, Derek Chambers, Shaun Knock, Daud Khan, Liam De-Maine, Trev Hughes, Harper, Deck KP20, and Simon Harrison, our AMTV staff members.